the definition of an inverse function. Let f of x and g of x be two functions such that when we compose them, f of g of x gives us x for every x in the domain of g, and g of f of x gives us x for every x in the domain of f. We mentioned earlier that this is the test to make sure you've actually found the inverse. Under these conditions, the function g is the inverse function of function f. The function g is denoted by f with this little -1, which means f inverse. It's read f inverse, such that f of g of x becomes f of f inverse of x equals x, and f inverse of f of x equals x. Like we said earlier, the domain of f must equal the range of f inverse, and the range of f must equal the domain of f inverse. In this example, we're asked to show that these functions are, in fact, inverses of each other. Remember, show means we have to show that f of g of x is equal to x and g of f of x equals to x. As Mrs. Venn told me one time, have you ever seen one that works out and the other doesn't work out? So you have to choose f of g of x or g of f of x. It doesn't matter. So let's consider f of g of x. Now, f of something says take 2 times whatever that something is and cube and -1. See, it's the f rule. Input cubed times 2 minus 1. And we're inputting g of x. So that means g of x has got to go there. Well, what does that mean for us? 2 times whatever g of x is cubed minus 1. And what is g of x? Well, it's the cube root of x plus 1 over 2. All right, cube root and cube, they kind of undo each other, if you will. And we're left with 2 times x plus 1 divided by 2 minus 1. 2 times 1/2, essentially here. These will cancel to give us x plus 1 minus 1, which is equal to x. So I can conclude already that they are inverses. If you want to be buttoned up tight, find g of f of x as well. As Miss Venn told me, have you ever found f of g of x gives you x and g of f of x doesn't? I said, no. Well, let's just make sure. G of f of x. Well, the G rule says take your input and add 1 to it and then divide by 2. What's our input? It is f of x. So this is equal to the cube root of something plus 1 divided by 2. And the something we're going to put in here is f of x is equal to 2x cubed minus 1. All right? So 2x cubed minus 1 plus 1, the minus 1 and the plus 1 are going to cancel. So this gives us the cube root of 2x cubed divided by 2. And those 2's will cancel. So I'm taking the cube root of x cubed, which is obviously x. And now we're buttoned up tight. We know that these are inverses of each other.